Hey yo, what it div, y'all? If you're new here, what's good? I'm No Name. Nice to meet you. It's weird, I know. Otherwise, what's popping, y'all? Let's get into it. Been gone a little bit. Had to take a trip, and I came back, and I got a whole lot of everything going on. Speaking of a whole lot of everything, Torchlight season 9 starts really soon. Actually, by the time you're seeing this, because I didn't get to record this till I got home. I wanted to record this while I was gone. Travel don't like that sometimes, and my Airbnb had terrible Wi-Fi, so I couldn't even really like get the files like sent over if I did. So I just did it when I got home. Better setup and all that. Let's talk about this new season. What's it called? The Outlaw season. Yes, I have it in my notes, but somehow I like lost track of my notes when I was reading it. So let's go ahead and talk about it. There's a whole lot of new content I want to talk about. Of course, I'm extremely excited for it. It might sound a little off right now, but it's because of so getting all my energy back. I just got back traveling, right? But I'm super excited for this new season because I just love Torchlight. Quite frankly, I like killing things. I like making a lot of money. I like the dopamine. And so another delivery of dopamine on my 3 month schedule. Yeah, baby. Let's talk about it. First thing I want to talk about is the new character. It's not the first thing in the preview trailer they gave us, but I like to talk about the character first just to get it out the way because I think it's somehow both the most and least important part at the same time. Like if you're somebody who's a dedicated player and but you don't know a whole lot or you're curious what people's thoughts are about the new character, I like to talk about it first. Otherwise, I mean, it sells battle passes and stuff, and maybe who cares? But like that's the other thing, right? I like to talk about so I can get the thing that's locked behind the paywall out the way first. Battle Pass is like $15 a season. It's for the whole season. You get the character. If you don't want her this season, she'll be free in following seasons. But she's really cool. She is a mana stacking elemental attack character. It's very much designed into her Mystic Mercury trait and the way that all of her hero traits scale around it. It's a lot of stuff revolving like mana consumption and then a special mechanic for mana gain, including actually on her 75 too, the fact that she cannot gain mana or lose mana through other ways besides specifically her hero trait, where she will lose mana as she attacks and then gain it all back when she's actually in the realm of Mercury instead of just like with just Mystic Mercury, which is pretty neat. I first see some insane builds coming out around this, by the way, considering how strong mana stacking already was. So much so they definitely like had to nerf a couple of the items around it, but I still think the archetype was extremely strong before this patch, and so giving it a dedicated hero, I would not be surprised if it turned out to be particularly ridiculous, right? That's one. And also, even if you think I might be wrong, she's the new character. I cannot remember a new character that wasn't nuts in my time playing, quite frankly. Carino 3, when I started playing the game, he was new, he was busted. Selena, when she came out, she was busted. Thea 3, when she came out, she was busted. You see where I'm getting at? Like, character comes out, they're gonna be busted. She's getting a special pet and everything to go with it. Like, she's gonna be busted. So you can't go wrong playing her. You just might have to figure out exactly what the build is, and there'll be plenty of creators with content about it. Or you can check out like Heroic. The description. We'll definitely have a guide up on there. We, as in like the site, the people I work with on the site, not me. I will not be covering this character particularly. Doesn't appeal to me as much as other characters, but I wanted to make sure I put that out there for you. Right now, with the character out the way, I want to talk about the thing that actually got me excited, which is the actual seasonal content. It's been a bit since I've seen seasonal content and really been like, ooh, interesting. At least not or mechanics that are in maps across games, right? This is if you're on this channel, you're an old viewer of mine, you're watch my PoE content, or if you're new here, you're here for CLI stuff across both games as well as LE and PoE 2 and Diablo. I generally do not care about in-map mechanics that much. Just because a lot of the time it just ends up amounting to nothing more than kill more monsters. And a couple exceptions to this have been like Twilight Nightmare, but that wasn't new when that wasn't a thing that I saw added to the game. It was a thing that was already in the game when I was playing. Or I think about like how like Betrayal, it is technically kill more monsters than map, but it does have a little bit more going on. There are not very many mechanics like that, especially in the past few years that have been added to these ARPGs. And so it usually I usually don't get that intrigued when I see in-map mechanics. But the theming of this one is just really cool. Like, it's quite frankly just like the theming, like, the idea of a heist that it's just kind of lit. And pacing wise, it looked pretty good. I'll need to see if it feel like how good the pacing actually feels, and if it's gonna feel like it's a little bit like God of Machines-y to me. As long as I feel like I'm not waiting around too much, I'm down with it. And it looks rewarding, of course. And I imagine they'll have to get buffed up in rewards a little bit, as it always does. This literally always happens, by the way. It's not like a knock on them or anything. It's just it's very rare that something hits the mark the first time in terms of loot. That's a hard bar to meet, right? Especially with the way economies always work out and stuff. Is what it is. Now, in terms of the actual reward structure and power structures associated with the system, I'm a huge fan of the like addition of the gambling that we have in like the harvest bench, for example, from PoE. Huge fan. Mostly just because I like gambling. Just put it where it is for a second. I really like gambling, but I also think it's just something the game doesn't really have a whole lot of, which sounds weird, but a lot of the game really fixates around like low or like lower variance opportunities, strangely enough, with the exception of like corrosion. That sounds weird when you think about a game where you have crafting chances that involve like 1%. But it's because of how separated everything is, and it doesn't feel like it's as much of a gamble a lot of the time, right? It's a lot of specialized resources for a lot of specialized things, as opposed to systems that mix into one another. And so like, well, I'm not going to use this resource for anything else right now anyways. I might as well just jam it down main. So I like the idea of something that's a lot more lead directly into gambling, where it's either hit or miss and no in between. Huge fan. And lastly, with the system, there's also the tower sequences, which is the big character power increasing system. We get one of those every season. I hate that it's in the weapon slot again, and it's mostly due to the fact that I feel like legendary weapons are really like suffering in the game, in the current state of the game, have been for quite some time, really since season 6. And I would love to see legendary weapons actually have a room in the game again long term. Outside of don't do what we did in season 5, back where characters were just sheets of orange. But it feels wrong, much like in PoE 1, where unique weapons or unique to PoE legendaries in Torchlight, they just completely fall off a cliff statistically at a certain point. Like, it's really bad, like really, really bad, but they do serve a purpose for getting progression. Anyways, tower sequences, the ability to incorporate those unique effects into other items is pretty interesting to me. Like, I am a fan of the fact that you could either like double up on certain effects. Like, I saw one that was surging, for surging inspiration. It's chance to gain spell burst on skill use. If I can stack that with a corrupted version of the hat, so that I'm rolling 50% for one and 50% for two every time I cast, it means that there might be a possibility that you can play a spell burst build with, like 3 stacks potentially, or something like that. Or you could play a spell burst build with a better hat instead of surging inspiration, and use the weapons one, or like if you get 2 weapons with 1 each, you know what I mean? Like, there's a potential there. There's a ton of other things. I saw eternity down there, etc., etc. I like things that are just blatantly broken on the top end of the game, quite frankly, especially in a game whose top end is designed to be broken. Right? That's the goal. So I'm really looking forward to playing around with that stuff. Next up, I got some balance thoughts based on the trailer, but B, so this is on the patch notes, and it's some myriad of things. I'm not going over everything I saw in there. Those patch notes were long. You can read those at your own discretion. But a couple of things that I saw that I want to talk about. One, they highlighted this in the video, and it kind of made me cringe at first. Then I looked at the numbers, and I'm a little less upset about it. Imbues turning into foci. Don't know how to pronounce the plural for that. But they turned imbues into foci, which in my mind really just screamed out to me the way that PoE 1 heralds went to PoE 2 heralds, in the sense that they turned them from purely just character buffing effects to things that do more actual combat stat things, but at the cost of making them more attack focused rather than for all builds. And it made me ew at first, because I thought about the PoE 2 heralds, but the only difference is PoE Torchlight foci did not lose all of their buffing. It's just that some of their buffing got leaned toward attack builds. Understandable, I guess. It kind of sucks for me, but whatever, understandable. But I'm more interested because the actual support for foci as a full build, right? Like, imagine a build, like, if you're a PoE player, for example, you remember, like Herald Auto Bombers existing and whatnot. Like, imagine a Herald Auto Bomber could boss. That'd be lit. I'm just going to keep it a buck, right? And so them giving options that look like we might be able to do something like that is really cool, especially because I saw in the patch notes there is a core talent that gives you the ability to put your focus in your main skill slot. So it can be scaled by things like your main skill level, and it can be affected by other things in that regard, and also frees up that reservation spot for things that actually buff it. This could be like extremely potent and really cool. And even if it's not my first build of the season, I really want to play it at some point during the season. I think it'll be really cool. And a side note to this, of course, the reason I said this change kind of sucks for me is because I'm a Ring of Ice player, and our Cascade, is it Cascade? I think it's Cascade. Our Cascade, wow, words are really hard right now. Sorry, Cascade, or one of our, it's one of our supports. One of our supports makes it so that we scale our chance to repeat Ring of Ice off of our Frostbite chance. And in my most recent iteration of the build, I was getting over 120% Frostbite chance from my Precise Ice Imbue. And that was a really big deal for keeping the character together. When using things with like 3-Eye Cat and whatnot. Now, I'm pretty sure this means that I could just go something like Peculiar Vibe and a couple other things to like get it back. But I mean, that's a lot of Frostbite chance that we needed. We have to hit 180% Frostbite chance, or 160% chance, my bad, to guarantee that you get the double up every time you cast. And that's a really big threat. That's a really big damage threshold. It was one of the big reasons I never took Ice Imbue out the character. So, unfortunate, but we'll figure it out. All right, the next big thing, which is related to this actually, the talent tree has been revamped. They've changed a lot of passes and whatnot too, but what I'm more so talking about is the fact that we get 4 trees instead of 3. And now you're thinking, whoa, that's so much power. Allow me to slow your roll real quick there. So it's 3 trees, it's going to 4 trees, but you only get 1 core talent from each of the other 3 trees you take, right? Like you start in a tree that's either, Goddess of Knowledge, War Machines, Deception, etc., right? Starting in those, you get 2 core talents from those trees. And then you get 1 from the other 3 trees. So you're down a core talent. Your points are going to be spread a little bit thinner, but maybe more focused. It'll be interesting. There's some positives and negatives to this. I don't have a full opinion on it until after getting to play with it more, quite frankly. This is going to be a thing you just have to check in with me later on. It's affected my theory crafting massively, obviously, but I don't know how to, say anything concrete about the change besides the fact that it happened, right? I will tell you, though, this will definitely affect your power in the, early stages of Netherrealm, most notably, right? Typically you're entering Netherrealm at 4, maybe even 5 core passives. It's possible that you're entering Netherrealm this time on only 3, maybe your 4th core passive. That is a lot of power to be missing. If the game is not rebalanced accordingly, it's not like it's going to crush you, because our progression from campaign to time mark 7 with a little bit of experience, mind you, if you're newer to the game, do not take any offense. Don't listen too hard to this part. But if with any experience in the game, your progression from end of campaign to time mark 7 was extremely streamlined anyways in terms of the excess amount of damage that we had and whatnot. But it's worth noting that if you were playing something that kind of sucked, this could actually be a big problem for you. So be aware of that. There was also the note that as a result of this change, pedigrees are no longer using what they called level 1 and level 2 core talents. They can now just say up to 2 different core talents. This is relevant for stuff like, if I were playing. So one that always came up for me is that there are some slots that actually had 3 useful core talents in them. And when I was deciding what I wanted to get in the pedigree, I would have loved all 3 of them to be on that pedigree, but you can only ever get 1 of those 3 on said pedigree. Or if it's in a tree I'm already in, I could take 1 and get the other 2 on the pedigree now. That's a new thing that's opened up. So that's kind of cool. We'll see how that goes. Now, next up, there's some new archetypes that they showed, which, they look pretty cool. The first one is the Elemental Trinity archetype, which, of course, I saw it, and I immediately thought of Trinity support. It looks really cool. The chess piece Trinity and the mechanic around it is really sweet, and there's a couple other things in the game that were added to support that. I think it's really cool. I was like, yes, we are forcing multi-element scaling into the game the same way that PoE did. Which, granted, that's how you have to do it, right? Everything looks forced because it's new. So it's not really a knock on them. It's just really funny calling it Trinity, just like it was in PoE. Then we have Minion Sacrifice mechanics, which I'm surprised they didn't have sooner. I feel like minion death has been a like pretty like common way to scale minions and minion related things across like many genres even for quite some time. So I'm glad to see that they finally got that option here. Especially because I wonder if it'll make like spider tanks a little bit more appealing to me, quite frankly. Like, you know, Maguses I like. I'm already a pretty big fan of Maguses, pretty big fan of like the Eider jars and whatnot. So hoping that this like makes the spider tanks a little bit more appealing in that regard. And then barrier explosion, just by name, it sounds sweet. And there's a spell burst interaction. And I always keep an eye on things that sound like scaling defense and offense together. So be aware of that. Last thing in this list of like balancing thoughts that I'm going to mention here in this video would be the Creator 3 rework. I mentioned him earlier as a really strong character when I started the game. That was in season 5. We are in season 9. That would be roughly a year ago, actually. In fact, I started playing the game while waiting for settlers to start. What a time indeed, right? While waiting for settlers to start, I in fact was playing Torchlight, and Creator 3 was the new character at the time. He was extremely strong, and well, he didn't survive very well going into season 6, not because they meant to nerf him directly, but more because he, like a couple other characters, did not translate very well initially into the new hero trait system. And so I'm glad that they're doing a focus rework to keep his mechanics, but remove a lot of the clunkiness that, you know, was solved via the old hero mirror memory system that are not solved in the new one. So might have to check him out. I'm just saying. Who knows? Alrighty. With all the balancing stuff out the way, got a couple other endgame thoughts and extra stuff from the video and whatnot that are worth talking about. 1, Sandlord is now core with some pace of progression changes. Not going to go into detail of that, just know that it is core, which means just like settlers in PoE, passive income is a part of the game now. Prepare yourself. There's a couple other buffs and whatnot to, you know, endgame content drops and stuff. One of the ones that I actually want to talk about is, this is not a buff, technically, this is a buff to the monsters and not to us, is that the content of Mistville, Frozen Canvas, and Eterna had their monsters buffed in both damage and HP to finally match better the difficulty of the zones that they're in. And they also increased the zones of Eterna to 86 and 89. This is very relevant. Eterna now actually exists in the deep space ecosystem, just like the other mechanics do. And the other mechanics are no longer a watered down version of Profound and Deep Space. They will now actually most likely be an appropriate amount of those things, which might affect your early game currency plans. So be prepared for that. I'm over here preparing for that, mind you, right? Ailment immunity is a much more available stat across a number of things as a result of the deep space changes and whatnot, which I expected this to happen. Quite frankly, I remember PoE did a similar thing back in Expedition League when they were going through we want to change how players interface with ailments thing. If you remember way back in the day, we used to use Flash for ailment immunity all the time, and they kind of took that away from us, and it was a bit ham-fisted, and it felt like shit the first time they did it. But then, you know, over the course of 2 to 3 leagues, they added in other options and answers for ailment immunity to the point where I would say right now the game is actively better for it. It was just really painful at first, right? I think we're gonna see this. Hopefully, actually looks like it might be enough, but we might get a little bit more because we have Kismets, we have Corruption Implicits, and now we also have these in the base types. We also have these as like mods that you can roll onto gear, so that you don't have to downgrade your gear to corrupt it into something. You can actually just go further. This looks like it should be sufficient. And a ton of other balance changes and whatnot that I don't really feel the need to go into too much detail on, because if you were looking for something about a specific skill, you would know where to find it. Also, TLIDB is updated, so you can go like check there. I'll have the link to that in the description if you want to like be able to pour through that. All right. Last things, right? QL had a couple other things related to like events and stuff that are worth talking about. 1, loot filters get custom sounds, which it's really funny. When Dread mentioned this to me, the first thing he said was like, "It's crazy that Torchlight got custom filter sounds before last epoch," and he's not wrong. I would have thought LE would have got it first. So go nuts! I look forward to seeing some clips of some hilarious filter sounds. I don't know if I'm gonna do it personally, mostly because I'm kind of lazy. But if I do, I might add some sounds. Who knows? I don't have any sounds that are like special to me in PoE, so I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll just add the PoE tink sound to like a fat stack of FE. Just all the dopamine. Uh, Price checking now works from like inspecting characters, which is big. That really bothered me that I had to like exit out of somebody's character to like look at the price or something on them if they were wearing something that was looked really expensive, or looked really cheap. I'm not being able to quickly go in and out of that menu. Awful. Hated it. Glad this is being changed. Loot drops faster. This is really relevant actually for a couple mechanics that I felt like the loot drop pacing fucks up their value in a speedrun situation, right? When you're running maps in under a minute, or in that like minute 30 range, every second you spend waiting on loot really adds up, and it pushes mechanics out of viability when you have to run back to get their loot or wait for their loot. And so pushing that fast down the line faster is actually really appealing. We'll see exactly what that, like, how that pans out, but it's worth noting, right? Also, the speed of like calculation on damage. It was some weird nerd talk that basically said if you play heavy hitting multi hit builds, your damage should be better off now as the damage cap has been adjusted upwards, and the way that damage has been calculated to be capped has been changed to be more favorable in that direction. And a ton of other like cool like little changes here and there. And then also we have the events, which there's a ton of events. The one that, of course, I want to highlight is the new one that's going to give us a legendary battle pet, which he mentioned in the video. It sounds like it's going to be a permanent fixture going forward, which means that'll be 2 sources of legendary battle pets per season, right? Because we still have the city defense that you can do, the 7 waves tower defense co-op activity, in addition to this new permanent fixture to the game. So then we have those 2, as well as SS20 for the drop pet every season, which is pretty cool. Hopefully one day they consider giving us these for non-seasonal drop pets, just because I think some like not having access to Chalk, Kong, Doro, or Captain Shadow, or like whatever they come out with in the future kind of sucks for people who don't have it, and I would love to see that get added. But I can't really complain when they just told us they're giving us another permanently added pet to the game. What am I gonna do, right? Anyways, that is my initial thoughts, or my initial rundown of all of this. I have a lot more thoughts, but they would take too long to condense in a video, and I do not have time. The only downside of planning a trip so far in advance is that I never really know what's coming when I get back. And it turns out that being gone for a week, in the week where, like I've got PoE stuff that I wanted to do, and the Torchlight thing is coming out, I had to miss BPL for this, and there's a Destiny raid coming the weekend after. It's just a nightmare. A whole lot going on. So I don't really have time to cover much more than I want to cover at the moment about this stuff, which you'll get some of this coverage mid-season. Or my actual recommendation would be to check out the stream or the Discord. Both of those are in the description. I will be streaming during the leagues. I have one exception to this, which is that Saturday in particular, I will be streaming Destiny, mostly because I'm going to be playing games anyways that day, and I need to stream it for so I have the recording of our day 1 raid, just because those are the types of memories that we like to have. And so I'll stream for you to be able to watch that. And then immediately afterwards, we're going back to Torchlight. It's just that's something that I've had planned with my friends for months, and I felt bad canceling it like 3 weeks in advance because of this, especially when I get over 30 hours to play the Torchlight season beforehand anyways, and I can just play Torchlight on the side. I might like put that up on the screen or something while I'm doing it. I don't know. But yeah, so that'll be over on Twitch. But you also just be able to like watch Twitch and see me actually, play the game. I'll be playing starting Thursday night. Somehow I didn't mention that the season starts at 9 p.m. Central Daylight Time on Thursday. Will be the 16th. No, that's bad. Yeah, 17th. Thursday the 17th at 7 p.m. Pacific, or 9 p.m. Central if you're me. That'll be when we start, and we will be going pretty hard that night. But I have to make sure I go to bed. So come check in, get the vibes, get the extra thoughts, all that good stuff. See what's happening. It's an exciting time to be an ARPG player. Quite frankly, there's a lot going on, which I'll talk about that in another video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.